All right, so without further ado, I will start my session, and I would like to start with the agenda. And this is going to be a 1 hour to 1.5 hour session, and it might creep over a bit longer than that, depending on the interest, as well as like there are a few things which I might go in further detail. So the first point on the agenda is like objective of this session, why I wanted to conduct this session since long, and then I'm going to introduce myself, my whole journey, starting from Engineering College Kota to where I am right now, and then some tips or rather guidance to students, what are the industries to pursue in corporate world. What are the major domains for electronics and instrumentation, or rather any other branch if there are any other students in this call, and what are the expectations from a 0 to 3-year-old experienced person who is just coming out of engineering college or has just spent 1 year out of the college. So like what corporate expects from a young non-experienced person, and what are the measurable traits in a person in professional career, and then definitely what are the skills required you can build during right from after just passing out of the college and in next 10 years or 15 years of your career, and career tips based on my experience, what I have learned so far, some failures, successes, all those. So that's what I have just made a slide of, all the career tips. Then we'll end this session with question and answer sessions. I received some around 5 to 6 questions from Honey, and I tried to answer them in the last slide, but feel free to ask any question in the chat session also. All right, so I'll start with objective of this session. So the first objective is what I needed in college is mentorship when I was doing my engineering in Engineering College Kota. Though I had good teachers and some of the relatives who were working in industry, but still I found like there was a lack of proper guidance where I could take decision based or informed decision based on data. So that's where I think I feel like we should have this mentorship session kind of program where people can get data, what's in the industry for a particular branch, for a particular company, so they can take informed decision. So that's what I thought, like I will give as much information as possible to students, and then from there they can pick what is best for them. So that's what, and then again share my experiences, how short or less impactful, but I think it's worth sharing those experiences so people can pick 1 or 2, and if they can do, or if they can get a start of their career based on my experience, I would feel very satisfied. Then how things work in industry, because for students it's difficult to understand how things work in industry. In academics it's difficult to correlate, though you can read a lot, you can watch videos, all those things, but still it's difficult to understand what happens in day-to-day life in industry, what are the important traits a person should follow to be successful in corporate world. So those kind of things I will share. Career tips which worked for me, as I told earlier, and I think it will work for most of the people, so I'm going to share them also. And what I'm getting out of this is connecting with young mind, and maybe I will learn from you guys. Definitely I will learn. I keep learning from my cousins who are in right now in engineering, doing engineering, and like new joinees in our company, because they come up with these innovative solutions, or they are better than me, or rather any 15 to 20 years experienced person in terms of interacting with computer like Excel or those kind of tools. So I would say that I will also gain something out of this this session. All right, so moving on to my introduction. So this is me. On the right-hand side corner, you can see this is my photograph, and everyone can see on myself on camera. And so here in introduction, I'm going to take you through my whole journey, right from the engineering college Kota and then where I am right now. And I'm going to share my interest and a few other tips on this slide. So starting from undergraduate, I entered into engineering college Kota in 1999 after passing pre-engineering test for Rajasthan. So at that time, you know, that was the, I don't know how it works these days, what kind of test you guys give to enter into engineering college Kota, or now right now it's Rajasthan Technical University. So forgive me if I use engineering college Kota as a term. Sir, I think that should be fine. All right, so I entered into, yeah. Okay, so I entered in year 1999, and I chose electronic instrumentation and control branch. So there are many reasons of choosing that, and the foremost one is like that's the branch I got based on my rank in pre-engineering test. And I could not get electronics or computer science, which I wanted, or they were in trend during that time. So, but I was getting those branches in some other colleges. But I wanted to stay in Kota because I'm from Kota. It was economical to live in the same city, as well as convenient, and my parents wanted like that. So again, there was not so much data involved in choosing this branch. However, once I joined this college and started learning or studying in my first year, I had to answer a lot of questions. Okay, which branch do you pursue in engineering? So I said electronic instrumentation and control. So people used to ask me, oh, is there any branch like this? They had heard only about electronics and telecommunication, computer science, and something like that. So I used to explain to them, okay, yeah, there is a branch like this, and we study these kind of things in this branch. And you know, if I think in retrospect, this gave me a perception or a confidence building activity, you can say. So there I started explaining them and self-realizing that what are good things about this subject, and what are different subjects we studied in electronic instrumentation and control. So what I learned from there is, in electronic instrumentation and control, it is a assimilation of electronics, which is hardware and software, plus mechanical, plus electrical, and definitely not civil, but also little bit of computer science. So you do not go in depth of electronics designing, you do not go in depth in computer science, software designing, those kind of things, but you get like way better understanding of application of these subjects in industry. And that's what all about electronic instrumentation and control. So you learn application of every important aspect of engineering subjects in electronic instrumentation and control. And in my view, that's how industries run. So most of the industries, are either process industry or a petrochemical industry or a food industry. So they do not design anything as such in design engineering product. They run process, and that's where you need people. They need people who understand the subject, but they understand the application more than the design of that component or a product. So that's where, and again, as I said, feel free to reach me to understand or gain more knowledge on the applications of electronic instrumentation and control in depth, like in various industries. I'm going to share briefly in next few slides how it works. But yeah, that's what I built, that perception myself during the whole like 4 years of engineering, which is still helping me a lot. Uh, some takeaways. What were the takeaways during after my engineering college or bachelor's degree from Engineering College Kota is like I had a satisfactory academic record. I was kind of a proactive and a sincere student, you can say, and I acquired good theoretical knowledge. So overall, it was a very good experience. I made a lot of friends, and again, a lot of enjoyment. There were very good teachers at that time. So yeah, it was a good fun. So from 1999 to 2003, I spent a good time in Engineering College Kota, and in my final year, as everybody like on the same boat as I was in my final year, I started looking for what is next for me when I go out of this college. But things were way different at that time. There was like the internet was not so popular. There was no lot of self-help websites. There was no YouTube, or the websites of all the companies were not so great, not so helpful. So you end up have very limited choices in your final year, whether you give GATE or whether you pursue public sector exam, those kind of things, because your reach to the outer world was very limited. So, and that's what I was also in the same boat, and I chose to write GATE exam. Fortunately, I got a good ranking. I forgot the rank what I got, but I managed to get into IIT Roorkee master's program. And there also, how I chose masters, IIT Roorkee, and then there I chose, or I got rather, measurement and instrumentation branch. It's just like a final year students who do not have any much professional background or understanding. I just see, okay, I just saw instrumentation. I know about instrumentation, so that is better branch for me. And IIT Roorkee, because that was the best institute I was getting out of based on my branch or based on my rank in GATE. So that's where I got into IIT Roorkee. I spent like from 2003 to 2005 in IIT Roorkee. What are the takeaways from there is, as you all know, IITs are world-class institutes, and you get to learn like theoretical knowledge, as well as you get to work on a lot of projects by yourself. You learn how to manage time. There are exceptionally great professors, teachers there, so you learn from them, and you learn from your colleagues, or rather fellow students also there. And it's always like a competitive environment, like you may be having in your final year. So you always try to do better, whether it's your communication skills, your technical skills, your approaching to teacher, and your practical skills, performing in exams, those all kind of stuff. You always try to do better, and if you cannot catch up with good performing students, you always feel bad. So you go through those kind of feelings and experiences, and that makes you a better person or a better professional, and you get yourself ready to enter into job market by that kind of experience. And I'm saying like you don't get that experience only in IIT, but you can get that experience in your right now in your college or anywhere where you try to compete and learn something. All right, so from IIT Roorkee, again, that's another story. So there was like, you know that, okay, many companies come for campus interview, and students sit in those companies for jobs. So however, during that time, software companies, especially the service companies, TCS and Infosys, those kind of companies were used to hire in bulk, like thousands of students. But honestly, I was never kind of inclined towards going into software. There may be many reasons for them, but the foremost one is like I was a little bit scared of computer because I did not have much background, and I was not good in writing codes or all those things because I never learned that. However, yeah, we used to have computer science subjects in engineering like C, C++, those kind of things. But still, I felt like I'm not so comfortable in computer science, and I'm more towards mechanical and electrical instrumentation kind of guy. So that's where I kind of work hard to get into BRC. I prepared well for the interview in BRC and gave it that interview, I think, in around April 2004 timeframe. So yeah, by the time those companies or the campus interviews started happening, I got the BRC selection letter in my hand. So I was kind of comfortable in that scenario, and I did not sit for any of those companies, and enjoy rest of my period doing masters and doing thesis, all those things in second year of M.tech. All right, so here how I got into BRC, as I told you, cleared my GATE exam. So based on my GATE score, they called me for interview, and then I did reasonably well in BRC interview. So yeah, and then I got into BRC training school. So how things work in BRC training, or rather interview. These interviews are basically very technical. They focus on your technical knowledge rather than your communication skills, and rather than your practical skills. So you have to read a lot of technical background. So you need to know how an instrumentation works, so how temperature measurement works, how pressure measurement works, what are the instrumentation, what are the basic theory goes in measurement, temperature measurement, like or pressure measurement, flow measurement, like Bernoulli's principle and Thomson principle for temperature measurement, RTDs, thermocouples, and they used to go in so detail, like how the voltage gradient happens and what is the theory behind voltage gradients in a thermocouple, those kind of things. So yeah, but like in engineering, you read all those things. The only thing is like you need to just sharpen you need to go in little bit of depth and sharpen your understanding of subject. So yeah, that's how I got into BRC. The interview went for around 2 hours, and finally, luckily, I got into that. So that was my first job. And after getting into BRC, we had to go through 1 year of on-job training, or it's more of like classroom training plus some kind of lab experiments. But it was not an on-job training like you get in other public sector units. So in BRC, I started, my training happened in Hyderabad, the nuclear fuel complex, and from 2004 end to 2005 end, something like that. And then I got posted after my BRC, or after my training school in BRC Tarapur. So BRC Tarapur, they mainly have a research and development center, but it's more focused on doing pilot projects of whatever research happening in BRC Mumbai. So I was in a nuclear waste management plant in BRC, working as a scientific officer. See, they call it scientific officer, but it's more of like a junior engineer. So there I got lucky to work directly on field instrumentation first time after doing my bachelor's. So where I used to get hold of control valves and how to tune control loops. I learned about PLC. I worked, first time I worked on a PLC that was, I think, Modicon PLC. And then I worked on SCADA, Wonderware SCADA. At that time, it was a very popular SCADA platform. So when I joined that BARC waste management plant, I was the most junior person there. And however, I was the only person who had better understanding of, latest technologies, because my seniors were all 15 to 20 years older than me. So I was able to, and I was enthusiastic and, wanted to learn as much as I can. So I put a lot of efforts in first 6 months or so. And so I learned about, I used to read manuals going into the control room, used to interact with operations people. And I took some initiatives there, which kind of helped me in building credibility during my first year in BARC. And that's how I will talk about this. If you have any question, what are my, in detail also about my experience in BARC, but in the later slides. So after working 2 years in BARC, I felt like, I started seeing the seniors and how long they work there. So I started feeling like, what's next after this BARC? And, I was placed in Tarapur. That place was a little bit isolated. So it was like, Tarapur is a town, small town, industrial town outside Mumbai. It is 80 kilometers outside Mumbai. And there are not many places for fun. And you have to go to Mumbai for everything. And Mumbai, as you all know, it's a very congested and highly populated city. So I was not very much fascinated with Mumbai's life as well as Tarapur's life. So, and any question? All right. So, as I said, I was not very fascinated with both the lives, and I and my friends, on the other hand, who were working with me or who got trained during my BRC training days, got a job in Hyderabad. And I used to get feedback from them is like, Hyderabad is a very nice city, amazing city. And it's a corporate world. So one of my friend actually forwarded my resume to in GE Hyderabad corporate office. And of course, I showed my interest. So I got a call, or rather, I got an interview call from GE Hyderabad, and then the interview happened over phone, and I had a video conferencing interview after that. So in 2007, I moved out of BARC and joined GE Power in Hyderabad. So that was a very big step for me. In terms of, I would not say in terms of salary or perks, but in terms of mindset, because I was coming out of, a government sector mindset to a corporate mindset. Because in government sector mindset, people do not focus on a lot of professional capabilities. They just want you to work and be good technically. But that was about to change for me, because in GE or in corporate world, people expect many things out of you other than technical expertise. And that's where my journey towards learning about to build myself professionally better started. So I joined GE Power as a control system engineer. Excuse me, just give me a moment. Yeah, I'll take a couple of water breaks in between. So just excuse me for that. So I joined as a control engineer in GE Power in 2007. March timeframe. There, my basic duties or responsibilities were as a requisition engineer working on gas turbine control system. If we get new orders, then those orders translated into from a bidding team or sales team to design team. So what design team used to work is like the product was very much standardized. So what we had to do is like, what are the instrumentation in field? We had to just see those instrumentation is rightly connected or to the PLC, and the software which is already built is to modify that little bit so that you can customize that software for that specific customer. So those kind of things we used to work. And then again, GE had a separate SCADA, separate PLC, all those kind of things. So I got exposure to work on GE PLC and GE SCADA, which is Simplicity. And I don't know whether you have heard about GE's PLC, which is Mark 6 platform. So Mark 5 and Mark 6, there are two platforms which generally GE systems work. So I worked for a couple of years in design team as a control system engineer. Then during that time, I got a lot of trainings. I got my quality Six Sigma Green Belt certificate, because at that time in GE it was really mandatory for everybody to do Six Sigma certificate. So, and that's where I was earlier telling about the difference between a government sector and a private sector, because GE was a product company and maintaining quality or top class quality was their main goal. So their goal was, their goal was to achieve Six Sigma quality in their product, which is there should be they can afford only one fault in 300,000 products. Which come out of their factory, which is kind of an ambitious goal, and they were able to manage that. And during when GE was at their peak of gas turbine development and delivery, they used to deliver one gas turbine every day. So it's kind of an amazing thing that how they could manage that, but that was based on their how they could manage it, because they had world-class process and product knowledge and engineers and a fleet of 300,000 engineers around the globe. So that's where I have learned a lot. Especially exposure to multinational corporate culture, how you work in a process-based industry, and acquired product knowledge, as I said, PLC, Mark 6 PLC, SCADA knowledge, project engineering knowledge. So how you implement projects. You received an order, and it's other than technical, there are a lot of aspects in projects like ordering to writing a specification of a product or a panel, and then sending it to a supplier, because GE doesn't build everything, so they are dependent on a lot of external suppliers. So write a specification, send it to a supplier, and ask supplier to build according to that specification, and then frequently or regularly check with the quality of the product, and then go to site or the factory floor of the supplier and test it in front of customer, which is called factory acceptance test, those kind of things. So those are part of project engineering and project management, other than definitely the control engineering part of it. And then I learned about functional safety. Functional safety is like how safely you operate your process or a product. I can talk about this more in later slides, but yeah, it's a subject in itself, which will take a couple of sessions. And the other thing is like I got to travel a lot, meet a lot of people within India, outside India, and that gave me a good perception how things work outside India, what people think, how to behave in front of customer, how to talk, what are the topics to talk, all those kind of things I really learned during my GE days, where I spent around 10 years, yeah, so a significant time. However, within GE also, I did not stay in one business. And that's where like I kept changing from power. So initially 2 years or 3 years I was in power, and then I moved for a short period of time in renewables, working on wind turbine controls. Then I moved to oil and gas business of GE. So, but the product or my domain remain always same, like working on PLC as a control engineer. However, the application was different. So initially, I was working on a big gas turbine control system of 250 to 500 megawatt gas turbine, and then in renewables, I was working on 5 megawatt to around that kind of wind turbine. And then I moved to oil and gas, where the most of the products are in range from 10 megawatt to 70 megawatt or 150 megawatt gas turbines or steam turbines. And there we used to develop control system for power generation as well as mechanical drive. So yeah, in later part of my career in GE, I used to work on small gas turbine control system, and mainly focused in project engineering or control system project engineering, I would say, aspect of the project execution. All right, so in 2007, after spending almost 9 years or 8 years in GE, I think from in 2015 or 16, I started thinking, okay, what's next? I started exploring opportunities like, can I go outside GE, and what are the better opportunities within GE outside Hyderabad? But honestly, you know, since GE, my job was so specific and niche. In India, there were not many opportunities within Hyderabad or Bangalore. So, and even though there were opportunities, the salary jump was not so high. So I got to find that people go outside India also to find job. And that's where I got to know about Australian immigration. So Australia and countries like Australia and Canada give visas based on skills. So they are called skill migration visa. So depending on your experience, your level of English, and your age, all those kind of things, they mark you, and based on your marks or point levels, they assign visas for people. So it's a whole process, and maybe we can talk about that in the end if there is any question. So I got motivated by a couple of my friends, my close friends, and then I applied for Australian migration in 2015 end or so. So it took around 1 year or so for me to get Australian permanent visa. So in 2016, I got a visa, but I could not leave my job, or I thought, okay, though I got an Australian visa, but what's next? So I have to get a job in Australia, which is not an easy task. So I started applying for jobs in Australia from India. For 6 months I tried, but that didn't work out, because people or companies in Australia want all the candidates to stay in Australia, or they have to be in Australia when they apply for a job. So nobody gives a heed to your resume if you're outside Australia. So in 2017, early or late 2016, I took a very brave decision to leave my job. Rather, initially I tried to move within GE from GE India to GE Australia, and I kind of very close to getting an opportunity within GE Australia, but ultimately that didn't work out. So I had to take a big risk of leaving my job in India and search for or explore job opportunities in Australia. And so what I did, like, I left my family, my son and wife in India, and just flew to Australia to apply for jobs and find a job. And I would say that was a very big risk at that time, because I was well settled in India and everything was working fine. However, I thought, like, can I continue working like that in India? I could, but I thought I can afford, or I can expect, or rather I should say I can afford rather a better life in Australia. So I took that big risk and moved to Australia in 2017 February. The day I landed was 3rd Feb. And I would say I was very lucky that within 1.5 months of landing in Australia, I applied in many companies, gave a lot of interview, and finally landed up in a job in a company called Ecolt in Sydney. So that was a company which worked on battery management system for lead acid batteries. The control system for that is like very, very small compared to the one which I worked in GE for 10 years. So here I started working on battery management system. There were a couple of parameters only which you measure from batteries, like temperature, voltage, and current, or maybe hydrogen sensing, those kind of things. But the main thing which I learned from in Ecolt is the project management techniques, and that's where I got certified in Prince 2 project management practitioner certification. And the other thing which I learned in Ecolt is Internet of Things, because this company was very small and it's kind of a startup. So they were developing, doing R&D, everything within a small Sydney office. They had a lab, and there were hardware engineers, there were software engineers, there were like cloud software engineers, those kind of data analysts. So yeah, I learned a lot from them. And so they used to develop a battery management system on BeagleBone, if you guys have heard about this, because yeah, it's these days IoT is very common. So they kind of developed an input-output system, a printed circuit board, which interface with BeagleBone, and which acquired data from battery, and they had a patented, or I would say, patented algorithm which runs inside that, which gives which can predict the life of a battery and control the parameters of battery to increase or optimize the life of the battery. So those kind of things I learned from there. And then, but again, it was a small company. I worked there for 2 years. Then I started looking for another opportunity and exploring outside world, bigger companies, so I can spend like next 5 to 10 years in that company without bothering about my job. So then I applied in a big company called UGL, where I'm right now working. So, and fortunately I got into that. However, this company works in transportation. Generally, you know, in trend in Australia is like they want people to be from same domain rather than trying people from different domain. But I really got lucky that I got a job in UGL, and as a control system engineer, senior control system engineer. And so in last 2 years, I was handling or leading a small project where we were developing a tunnel ventilation control system for Sydney Metro project. And there I performed reasonably well, so I got promoted. So right now, right now I'm a principal engineer in UGL. So yep, and that is my journey right from Engineering College Kota to where I am right now. And I'm satisfied with my journey. I think I would say, like, people, if people say think, then yeah, I'm doing well. But definitely I still, I have that hunger or something. Like after 2 years I start feeling, okay, what's next? What can I do? Am I losing something? Are people doing better than me? Sometimes, it gives anxiety to you, but in career, it really worked for me, because that brought me here. Otherwise I would have stayed in BARC, and like lot many, and that life is also not bad. I'm not saying like they did not progress, they are doing well, they're happy, but for me this thing works well, and I'm really happy with that. So for some people, things work fine when they're in GE, they grew well. Everyone was like had their different goal, perception towards life. But for me, this thing worked well, and yeah, I'm happy with this. So, but other than professional life, I have definitely my family life, everything. My parents live in Kota. They're still there. My brother and sister, everybody is in Kota. I'm well connected. I travel to Kota once in 1.5 year to 2 year, and however, due to COVID and restrictions of travel between India and Australia, it's getting difficult for me to go to India to visit my parents. But yeah, let's see when it will open. Other than that, I have interests in running, so I developed interest in other things other than professional life, like running, playing tennis. In a community we had a tennis court, so we used to play, and I like to stay fit, watch action movies on Friday night with my son. So yeah, that's another way of rejuvenating myself. So the takeaway from this, my introduction or my journey, is like, sometimes you have to be at right place on right time. And it's most of the time it's not in your hand. And people think like, okay, this person may be lucky, this person, but luck, is a thing which only favors who are brave. I would say, and I'm not saying, like, I'm not boasting myself, but based on my experience, I took those risks, and I could feel that taking those risks benefited me a lot. Okay, because that's where I can say that, okay, I was at right place on right time, because I could take that risk at that time. It was a calculated risk. It was like not a random risk. Okay, leave everything and go for leave a job which is very well placed and do something random. No, I took a calculated risk, and that worked out for me. It's going to work out in future, I don't know. So let's see. Anyways, enough about me. So moving on to next slide. So definitely people or students in their final year or third year are very much interested in what are the industries to pursue. Again, this is a process of data collection for you to take an informed decision. So based on my experience so far, working in India for 15 years or 14, 15 years, and then working here in last 4, 5 years. Excuse me. So that's what I'm going to share my experience here. So everybody knows that, okay, there are public sector companies, private sector companies. So major public sector companies, especially in India, are, you all know, petrochemical companies like IOC or HPCL, those kind of companies where you can try your luck. And then other public sector companies where I work, is one of them is BARC, Bioatomic Research Center. It is part of DAE. So in DAE also, how got to get into DAE, rather, I would come about that later. And then there is a DRDO, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and other central and state government companies, which can give you better experience, technical as well as project management kind of experience. What are the major industries? So yeah, what I would suggest people is, like, take that list and make an Excel sheet. That's generally I would do, or if I don't do it, then at least in my mind I develop that database. What are the petrochemical companies, and make a list. What are the central government companies? Make a list for yourself. Or make a list out of this. And then what are the major industries? And ultimately you have to find which industry excites you more. So, and put your 100% effort to get a job in that industry. Sometimes opportunity comes to you, like company come for campus interview and select you. Grab that opportunity, even though, like, if you think you really don't like that opportunity, just go for any other opportunity. Always take an informed decision. So what are the major industries? Like petrochemical, renewables, power generation, oil and gas, cement, power distribution, R&D in various fields, electric vehicle. These days, electric vehicles are employing a lot of people. Telecommunications, government, public sector telecommunication companies, and there is a lot of R&D happening. Bharat Electronics Limited, those kind of companies. How to crack these exams, how to crack or enter into these companies, I think some of you guys know better than me, because things have changed a lot since 2003 when I was pursuing these companies. But I think they have just simple process. You have to give exams, and once you clear the exam, either it's a gate, or for some companies there is a separate exam, and then you give interview, and that's it. But there is maybe another way, is like sometimes connection work. If you have some of your relative or somebody in your big company, or in a power distribution company, or in an electricity company, then use your connection. There is, like, you have to use not unethical means, but sometimes you have to use many means to get a job, or to get at least your first job and show your capability. So try to put effort in those things as much as possible. And what are the significance of working in public sector company? So I would say, like, some people think, like, working in public sector companies may not be so fascinating, and it's in some way it's true also, but you have to think, like, in public sector companies, government put a lot of money, and the equipment and process sometimes are really good. So as a fresher, you get a lot of training, and you can learn a lot in first or 2 or 5 years of your career, which you can apply in or to get a better job outside public sector company, and apply that experience to move forward in your career. So I would say, and that happened with me. As I told you, I started working in BRC, and there I got to work on various PLCs, because I was responsible for a lot of things there. I used to change codes based on the requirements of operation people, and design few small changes in process, those kind of things, tuning control valves. I learned about protocols, RS485, or Modbus, Fieldbus, those kind of things in my first job. So, and that's where reading manuals, those kind of things, it gives you theoretical understanding of control system, which you can use in private sector. So the major companies in private sector, as are GE, Siemens, Reliance, Yokogawa, Honeywell. There are like thousands of companies. So, and fortunately in India, what these companies do, they do have their main research and development centers either in the US or Europe. But since the human resource is very, very costly in these countries, they have their engineering centers in India, like especially in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune, Gurgaon, Mumbai. So just make a list of these companies and what are the where are the engineering centers in India are located, and target that companies, how these companies select people for the jobs, and which company excites you the most, which field excites. Is it like gas turbine controls? I know people don't understand gas turbine controls when they're in college, but do you really like to work in complex control systems? So target according to that. Do you really want to work in a plant? You are a field person, so target a power plant, target a process plant like Reliance, those kind of things. So you need to make some kind of path for you, and you have to start walking in that and start doing effort to move to that path or getting a first job in that direction. What are the major industries? Again, based on your experience, you can target petrochemical, renewables, power, oil and gas, cement, transportation, pharma, food and beverages. Biomedical is a big thing these days, and you can learn about biomedical, do a small course or something and say that, okay, I know this thing about in biomedical. So yeah, there are many companies in biomedical and emerging these days. Electric vehicle is again a big sector these days. Energy storage, as I told, my company was in energy storage, and we used to supply, energy storage units in India. So I can talk about that later if people have any questions. Telecommunication. So target one industry, and you can target top 3 industries and target top 3 companies, and then start putting efforts in that direction. Explore, do your research on what these companies do, who are the alumni in this company, or maybe your relative, anybody, and just forward your resume to the HR, those kind of things. Connect with people on LinkedIn who are working in this industry or companies, those kind of effort you can do. How to crack first job in these companies? Definitely these companies come for campus interview in Premier Institute. I understand many companies do not come to Kota Engineering College, Kota or RTU for campus, but that's all right. I think these companies, hire outside campus also. So you need to look for those opportunities. However, they are very limited. Start with a public sector company, as I told. So before these companies, they don't want to train people or they don't want to spend too much money and time in training people like public sector companies do. So I had 1 year of technical training in BARC, but these companies do not do those kind of things. So you need to get some training in public sector or experience, and then move to a big company in control system or telecommunication, whatever field you choose. Or you can start with a small private sector companies within your within Rajasthan, or there are a lot of companies in Gujarat, pharmaceutical companies where you can go into process industry, and so start exploring those options also. So don't think like you have to work in this company for the whole of your life. Just work there for 1 year or 2 years, learn the process, learn the technical aspect of that, and then keep applying from there in big companies. All right. So, and as I said, pick a domain, build your skills on that, and climb the ladder. That's the takeaway from there.
Hello, sir.
Building on to the last slide.
Good morning,
yes,
sir.
Please. Good morning. Yeah.
Am
You have
I
any
audible,
question?
sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. So my name is Manjul Sharma. I am from third year from Electronic and
Yep.
Communication Engineering branch. So my question is, sir, I see a lot of guys switching from core company to IT company.
Mhm.
But what is the possibility to switch a IT guy into a core company?
Uh, IT guy to a core company. So look, that totally depends on how long you have spent in an IT company. So, and whether you are working in an IT company or in a services, I'm assuming your question is like companies like services company where you just work on a service software, not a product. Method is, I can share some more tips on later slide. There is no single method. As I said, you have to make a list of companies which you want to target, and you have to be confident in your technical skills. And if, let's say, if that company is you, if your experience is not relevant for the job you're applying, sometimes you need to forget about what you have worked in that IT company. But if you have spent, let's say, 5 years or 6 years in a software company, I would say it will be difficult until unless you go for master's course or something like that in that core branch. So it's little bit tricky. It depends
Okay,
how long you have
okay.
spent in that IT company. Did I answer your question? Yep, I take that as yes. All right. So moving on to the major domains, building on the next or the last slide, the major domains, as I said, one is where I have worked the most is project engineering or and industrial automation. So basically my experience lies within these two. So I'll explain what project engineering domain is and what are the subdomains, and then what are the roles available in that domain. Give me a moment. So project engineering, this in project engineering and project management, the subdomains can be you will have to handle sales, commercial, sourcing, and operation kind of aspect of a project. Sometimes, not many times, sales, because there is a separate sales engineer for that, separate sales team for that. But definitely, as a project manager, you have to handle the commercial aspect of a project. Sourcing means from where you are going to source that product or project or components of that product or services. And then operations, if you are not in development of a project, or if you're not in a product company, and if you're in a plant, then you will have to focus on operation, how the day-to-day operations work in a company, and how you can implement best practices in the industry, in the operation. What are the standards like ISO, and those ISO 9001, ISO 14000, those kind of standards in operation. Yeah. So, and what are the I would just talk about the skills also here. So in commercial and sourcing, the project manager has to be very much aware of what's going on, what are the suppliers available in the in the market who can supply this product or project. I would say I think I'll give an example here. So I was working in GE, and we used to build or we used to supply gas turbine to customer, and the gas turbine is a very, very complex system. So we used to have a controls team, an electrical team, and mechanical team, and civil team, and yeah, I think those are the main technical teams. And then there is a sourcing person. And all of them are managed by a project manager and a project engineer. So project manager was responsible for taking all the commercial decisions, talking to customer, setting up the contract, getting the contract signed, how much, what is the liability of a project, and what is the margin we are getting out of the project. What are the risks we can take in the project based on experience of that project manager. He can assess and he can determine what are the risks and whether the company or whether his team is capable of taking those risks. And then he has to take, and those risks are basically commercial risk mainly, and technical risk. But ultimately the technical risk, something like, I'll give you an example of technical risk, is like you are trying to supply a new or you are trying to procure a new PLC from the market which your company has never used, because that PLC is cheaper than what are the other products available in the market, and you are trying to, you know, making more profit out of this project. However, there is a risk involved with that because you haven't validated that PLC anytime before using this. So there is always a risk whether that will work or not, that will give you the quality which you wanted. So now you have to make a plan. So how that plan works, you have to test it thoroughly, and whether you have enough resource to test that PLC, whether you have enough technical capability to test this PLC. So these are the risks a project engineer and project manager assess and determine whether they can take that risk or not, or whether they can stick to their original PLC and make less profit. So those kind of you know, day-to-day activities a project engineer and project manager takes, and those but I'm talking about, like, you know, after sales and before sales also there are a lot of I would say subdomains or roles or activities you need to do. So let's say if a company or a big company like Reliance has said that, okay, I'm setting up a plant and I need a gas turbine, I need a transformer, I need to build this building. So there are a lot of suppliers available in the market who can do that job. So let's say GE, Siemens, and ABB are all bidding for that gas turbine project. So during that sales, you need to take decisions, or you need to read all the requirements which Reliance has put up to as a specification for what they want from that gas turbine, and you need to see whether you comply or whether you can meet all those requirements. So every company like GE, Siemens, and ABB have to read that and say to Reliance, okay, we meet this. Now comes the question of who is the cheaper. So that thing is very, very tricky. So that needs your experience in sale. You have to have a lot of data, and that's where these companies, you know, invest a lot of money in understanding what is the best possible price they can put for a product. And then negotiation cycles happen, and you go to them, say that you can provide some extra features in this gas turbine, those kind of things, and then customer can take decision whether to go with GE, Siemens, or ABB. So this is how things work in sales. And what are the roles available in project engineering and project management are application engineer. So application engineer is nothing but a person who is involved in, you know, reading the specification from customer, and he or she has understanding of the product of that company, product which company is offering in the market. So he or she can take a decision, okay, we meet all the specification, and now we are good to offer our product to this to Reliance. So that's the role of an application engineer, or roles and responsibility of an application engineer. Sales engineer are mainly take a decision whether we can provide this feature to customer or not, and how much engineering cost we have to put in developing this service. So those kind of things, those kind of decisions are taken by a sales engineer. A project engineer. Project engineer's role come during the execution of a project. So once a company won the project, so let's say GE has won the project from Reliance. So now that project will be assigned to a project manager and a project engineer. So project engineer will decide, okay, I need a control system engineer, I need a mechanical engineer, I need an electrical engineer to execute this project. So what he will do, he will give the requirements, controls requirement to a control engineer, mechanical requirement to mechanical engineer, and electrical to electrical engineer. And he says to them, I'm your single point of contact with customer. If you have any doubt in designing or in executing this product for this customer, you go through me and I can take your queries to customer. And if customer has a query that, okay, whether you are whether you are on track in developing this product or not, so customer connects with project engineer, and then project engineer asks those questions to individuals who are working in different domains and answer to customer's query. So this is how it works. And then there is a role in sourcing. Sourcing, as I told, it's how to source a component or a service from outside supplier or somewhere else. So that's also sometimes it falls under a manager's purview, or sometimes there is a separate role for that. Then planner, which is also a very important role. So planner basically decides, okay, what are the activities we need to place one after another so that we can meet the deadline to deliver this product or service. And you need a lot of experience to become a planner. You need to have experience in that particular service. You need to have experience in executing tools set for planners, those kind of things. Yeah, for this domain, I would say you need at least 3 to 5 years of experience. So fresher would not be able to get into project engineering and project management unless you have exceptional skills and you have passion about working in project management, so which you can demonstrate to a company. Then I would say here you need a little bit of experience to start working in this domain. Second comes industrial automation. So industrial automation, as I explained, you received an order from a big company, and project engineer assigned that to control system engineer. So that control system engineer is basically an automation engineer. And the subdomains for that automation engineer are designing the product, or customizing the product based on customer requirement. And if you are in a plant, then if you're in a plant and working in automation, then how your field instrumentation, your HMI works, your servers work, how they communicate between each other, those kind of things are part of operation. Execution. So execution and design go hand in hand. So this I have already explained. System engineering. So system engineering is itself a big subject. So it's a master's subject, which generally even institutes like MIT provide a postgraduate course on system engineering. Just to give you a gist of it, is like it's more of, you know, requirement gathering, and then how once you gather those requirements, how you plan to develop a product or a service based on those requirements, and then how you validate and verify whether those requirements have been met or not, and then how you deliver that thing to customer. So there are a lot of procedures, standards developed around that. And once you jump into industrial automation, you will understand those things in detail. Internet of Things. So this is a very much trending subject. However, it's in there since like late 70s or 80s. So it's not a new thing from a technical point of view, but because our internet speed, there is a wireless internet these days is at, you can see a high capacity internet is available. So you are able to interface with field device very easily. And for that, you need to understand how that field device works on different protocols and how to convert that data which that field device generates. So let's say a flow transmitter or something, and how to convert that data so it can be transmitted to internet and can be acquired or can be transported to somewhere somebody sitting like way far away from the field. So this is part of industrial automation. Cybersecurity, operation technology. So in cybersecurity, there are two aspects. One is information technology and one is operation technology. So information technology is basically securing your data, which is mainly related to your finance, your personal data, your Aadhaar data, or those kind of things. So that's basically, or which IT people take care, or networking people take care of. But this is operation data and cybersecurity. Yeah. So in OT, basically what you secure is your operational data in the plant. So let's say Reliance has a big, huge plant, but they want to secure the operation from an external ransomware attack or a virus attack. So they need to set up their whole PLC system and their SCADA system in such a way that some external agency cannot, or a virus or a threat actor cannot attack the operations, day-to-day operations of the plant. And this is a subject in itself, and these days it's very popular and required as well, because there are a lot of cybersecurity threat, especially for operation technology around the world. So you would have heard the latest attack on US pipeline, which halted the operation of the whole oil transmission from one part of the US, or transportation from one part of the US to other, and it costed them millions of dollars. So it's very hard to stop these kind of attack. So but definitely you can predict and you can mitigate these kind of attacks to a certain level. So it's like who can outsmart the other person, or if you can outsmart the attacker, you will be better off, otherwise you will be attacked. Next one is data analysis, operation technology. So again, there is information technology data analysis and operation technology data analysis. In operation technology, you analyze the data which originates from the field instruments like flow, pressure, temperature, and then you can predict how your equipment is going to behave, how your machine is going to behave. You can do predictive maintenance. You can do asset management based on that. Those kind of things are part of data analysis, operation technology. And then comes safety systems. Safety system is a system on top of your process control. So let's say you have a plant, it's running fine, working well, process is working well, you have control loops and everything. But sometimes what happens, there are conditions which are unsafe for human and for environment. So which can, you know, a failure of an instrument, let's say, a failure of a flow transmitter. And if, let's say, if you are measuring a flow through a pipe let me think of an example. Yeah. So if you are measuring a flow of oil transportation in an oil pipeline from, let's say, one city to another, and if that flow transmitter fails, you will not be able to control the flow of that oil properly. So what you need to do, you need to put a safety system, because if you will not be able to control the flow of that oil, it may damage some equipment, or it can overpressurize some accumulator down the line, and it can be harmful for humans, it can be harmful for environment. So you need to put a layer of protection on your normal flow measurement, which can you know, stop the flow if it goes beyond the threshold. So I have just given an example to you, but this is again a vast subject, and it can be applied differently in different fields, like gas turbine, in pharmaceuticals, in electrical vehicle, in battery management, in power industry. It is very, very important. So that's where it's a subject in itself. And you can explore this subject by putting functional safety in Google. There are a lot of standards. I'm going to talk about standards in later slides and what standards you can read, but these are the basic subdomain. And here, these are the roles available. I'm not going to go in detail of that. I will just talk about design engineer because it's more related to you guys. So because for a 0 to 3 year experienced person, companies take engineers as either a design engineer or an application software engineer or a validation engineer. So these engineers' role basically just to quickly learn the process, or by reading a manual or learning from your senior or through a training, and then start working on the basic aspect of, or the bulk of the job, and which will be reviewed by your seniors or a senior engineer or principal engineer kind of person. And these design engineer, hardware engineer are kind of, you know, can be in safety, system engineering, Internet of Things, cybersecurity, hardware, software, in these subdomains. So you can correlate these roles in any of these. And that's why I have made a table. So just you can go on internet, validation engineer for a cybersecurity, OT, validation engineer for data analysis. It may not make sense in some of the things, but that's where you can just mix and match these keywords and find out on internet. Third is telecommunication. I'll not go in detail about telecommunication because I don't have much experience, but here based on my knowledge by reading articles and books, everything, or talking to people or having friends in this field, the major subdomains are electronic hardware and software, so which can be an embedded system software or any kind of, you know, electronic hardware design. So again, the roles are same for these industries or this domain, like design engineer, project engineer, hardware engineer, software, embedded software, operation engineer. So operation engineer, maybe you can go to a telecommunication company and you can be responsible for operation of a telecommunication tower, something like that. Validation engineer can be to validate electronics, hardware and software, those kind of things. All right, and the third one is computer engineer, computer domain, and I think most of you are aware, like based on the popularity of software or IT companies, the products and services are major subdomain in that, and there are heaps of technologies. You people may be knowing better than me on what are the technologies available in the product of computer and services. And for an instrumentation or an electronic engineer, you can go in any of the field. All right, so maybe for an instrumentation and control engineer, it's difficult to go in telecommunication. But an electronics engineer can try in process automation or industrial automation, project engineering after getting some experience in a plant or some kind of project management activity. And definitely all of you can try in computer science, products and services, depending on your skills in computer subject. So those are the major domains and subdomains. And the last but not the least is entrepreneurship. Okay, so entrepreneurship is basically, people think like, I have to start a big business to become an entrepreneur, and I'm not built for that. I think that's not a right definition of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a state of mind where you think like, I have an idea how to take it forward, and do have enough resources to build a product out of that idea, even if it's like selling a jug or selling a cup. But as an engineer, you can set a process around selling a cup or a mug, okay, better than a person like who do not have academic knowledge. You understand what I'm saying? So you can think all the aspect, who's going to buy this, whether I can put a computer process where I can manage how many cups I'm going to buy from here, how many cups I'm going to sell, what is going to be my profit margin. And I'm just taking very oversimplified example of a mug, but entrepreneurship can be applied in engineering products. Like you can buy an engineering product and sell to a company. Of course, you need a lot of effort to do that, but that is in your hand. You are not dependent on any company to give you a job for that. So just think like, okay, take buy 10 or 20. I'm just again very simply oversimplifying this thing. So just buy an engineering product and how you can sell it to market and how you can make profit out of it. And you know what? This is going to be one of the most important or significant experience in your career. You need not to do that, continue do that for, let's say, 5 years or 10 years. You can move to a company. But if you say to a company that, okay, I was an entrepreneur and I made a significant profit out of this, or I had a turnover of, let's say, 1 lakh rupees or 10 lakh rupees in last 4 years, people will be impressed, because you will be able to turn nothing to generating a profit, or rather selling of 10,000 or 10 lakh rupees. So that's where you can use to build as a confidence. You can use that as building credibility for yourself, and you can continue if it's really making profit and if you're interested. So that is another important thing I would say people should try. I never did that. I was definitely scared, like many of you are, and maybe doing new things. But I would definitely, if I get proper support and proper mindset, I would definitely try to go into entrepreneurship and build my confidence around doing something really good. Again, major takeaway from this is you have to stay updated. You have to upskill regularly, and if you are just going in any of these domains. I would talk about how you can upskill and in later slides. All right, so now coming on to if you have, let's say, chose one of the industry out of those domains, or you have chosen an industry, you have chosen a domain or a subdomain which you think is of your interest, then what do you need, or what managers in a big company or a small company looking in a candidate who has got 0 to 3 years of experience? So first of all, aptitude. Aptitude, it is basically whether you have technical aptitude, you have financial aptitude, you have project management aptitude. So aptitude is basically applicable to all the domains which we have seen here. Aptitude is basically your technical knowledge as well as your acumen to apply that knowledge into some application. And communication skills, of course, and this is people think like whenever they talk about communication skills, people think it's sometimes very difficult for me to get that, to develop that, or to master that. So I would say there is nothing called mastering in communication skill, and I would never try that myself. Okay, communication skill is something like you have to start at one point of time. You have to start speaking, you have to start communicating with people, and that is the only way you can improve. And if you are approaching a company, don't stop yourself just because you are not able to communicate well. What you can do if you are not able to communicate well, just search on Google how to write a letter, just how to write an email. Just search on Google or ask somebody, maybe your teacher or your mentor, and this session like this, how to approach to a company. So, and all these things comes or are part of communication skills, like how to approach people and how to respond if somebody asks you a question. So don't stop yourself if you think that is your weak point, because this can be improved. There is a lot of data, there is a lot of information available in the world, and nobody has a perfect perfect answer, or people would come out of different answers or different things, and that's where companies look sometimes whether diversity. So you may not be good in English, but you would come up with a very different idea, which people who can speak really wonderful English cannot just come up with, or cannot just say those things. So communication skill is not just speaking English or walking, talking, those kind of things. There are a lot of aspects of that, and just go in Google and search what are the traits you need to develop a good communication skill. Passion for excellence. Yeah, this is, I would say, one other thing which people look in non-experienced person. So what does this mean is, whatever you do, you have to give your 100% in that, and whether you want that to be like perfect quality. And again, the perfect quality doesn't mean you will be able to achieve it, okay? But you have to target for that. And that's where you have to tell that to a person who is interviewing you, or who is reading your resume, or who is reading your email, that you have a passion for excellence, and whatever you do is basically to achieve great quality. So, and how you can do that? And you need to have an example to showcase or demonstrate your passion of excellence. And that's where I'll come on that, how you can demonstrate that. Attention to details, again, together with passion for excellence and attention to details, that's what you can build great product, a good service, those kind of things. So recruiters look those kind of qualities, like whether even if you are designing a software, even if you are doing your final year project, how much detail you have gone into writing specification of that. So I still remember I have done my final year project, but we were so poor in documenting that. We never done we did not do a proper documentation. We have just started building that project, putting like seeing circuit diagram, and just started putting capacitor, resistor, or components on a PCB. We never focused on writing a specification, because as a student in academics, you are not trained to do that. But in industry, the first thing you do, you learn is writing a specification. You can't just build, you cannot just directly go and build a thing. So first you need to make a detailed plan. You need to make a drawing. You need to see what are your major objectives out of that project. So that gives you, a trait of attention to detail. And when you start writing those things, you start figuring out, okay, if we will not do this, we have to do this. How many components we need, what is the size, and whether it's going to work in this manner or not. All the conditions, environmental condition you need to think. So those kind of details, or those kind of, I would say this kind of trait would help you in landing in a better job. Clear thinker. So clear thinker is something like, if you say that, okay, I have these 3 objectives to achieve or to finish this project, stay on those 3 objectives and work around those 3 objectives, and don't try to deviate. Because yeah, I understand our mind is something like, we deviate, but in an industry, you always need to portray yourself that, okay, you can think in a clear way and communicate what you think in a very clear way. Innovative. So you need to be innovative. So people expect you to come up with new ideas, whether it in terms of process or a project, or how to minimize the effort on an activity, those kind of things. And any experience. So I understand from a 0-year experience person, you are just still in a college, but your any training, let's say your 3rd year or a 2nd year training, can be considered as an experience. So let's say you have somebody would have, I got trained in Kota Thermal Power Station, where I spent, I think, 45 days. And I would consider that as an experience, because I got to learn the whole process, like how they generate electricity, and right from what are the instrumentation in the field and those kind of things. So don't hesitate writing those things in your resume. And because when you start thinking about these small things, you would explore some more background behind those things. And so if you are going for an interview, you can explain that thing. Okay, I have done this, I have this experience. People would say, okay, you have just 3 months of experience. But that doesn't matter. It's the thing which matters is how much you have learned from that 3 months of experience. Any internship, try to get as many internship, whether official, unofficial. So yeah, DIY projects. So these days, DIY projects are like very big trend. You can just open a YouTube video. Even an year 8 or year 10 student can just open a YouTube and start building a digital to analog converter, or their own IoT device, or writing a program in Arduino or a Raspberry Pi. And that's where, so an 8-year-old student, or rather in year 8 class students, can do that, but he or she may not be having that engineering background. But so that's where you need to build that kind of engineering judgment, following process when you do those kind of DIY project. And then that you have to translate that work to your resume in form of a report, which you can attach with your resume or send it to a recruiter. So yeah, these kind of things you can do. All right, moving to the next slide. We have already crossed more than 1.5 hours. So I would say I will take more than maybe 45 minutes of still left out of this presentation. So bear with me, and sorry for creeping more time. Measurable trait. So what are the measurable traits recruiters would like to see in a candidate? So he or she needs to be a clear thinker, expertise, inclusiveness, and maybe we can read. I would read these randomly. I would not go into detail because otherwise it will take another hour to if we talk about every point. So I will take this point, which says communicates key information to the right people in a timely fashion. Yep. So this is a very, very important trait, and this is a very much a measurable trait also, because let's say you are working on a project. Let's say your final year project. So you have to find like or you have to set a communication channel with the right person first, whether it's your professor or whether it's some kind of your fellow students from who you need more information to execute your project. And you have to do it in a timely fashion, because let's say if you go to a person just 2 days before finishing or before the deadline, then you have failed to execute the project in a right manner. So that is one of the trait, which is a measurable trait, which people would like to see in a candidate. Expertise. So one of the trait in expertise is continuously focuses on self-development, and this is again very important, because I would take this as an example of technical expertise, because the expertise can be in form of your communication skills, your process management skill, project management skill, operation skills, anything. But to take an example of technical skills, let's say you are a control engineer, so you cannot just keep working on one thing for your whole life. So you need to have a very good understanding what is coming into market and what is the new technology, and you have to learn that new technology. Nobody will come to you and say that, okay, you learn this technology, I'm going to give you new project on this technology. No, you have to find that technology by yourself and start learning it, and then you can showcase to your senior or your manager that you know that technology. So he or she can come to you, okay, so you know that technology, there is another project coming up which is based on this technology. I think you're a good person to take that, and let's see how it goes. So things like in corporate, things work like this. So you have to develop that attitude. Third is inclusiveness. So let me see which is the best example to share in this. Inclusiveness, I would say this, let's say, modifies approach to consider others' need and perspective. Again, a very important trait. So you need to understand, like, if you are targeting your colleague, if you are targeting your senior team member, if you are targeting a person from financial background, to communicate your idea. So you need to change your approach accordingly, because you want that person to be part of that project to make that project successful. And that is inclusiveness, because when you are working on a project, you will have a person who is from software, you will have a person who is from hardware, sometimes mechanical, electrical, those kind of people. So you cannot just talk like core Python language with an electrical person or a mechanical person. So you have to explain them in their language, or make it more simplified. And that's where you can easily communicate your ideas and your thoughts to make the projects more successful. You can go through these traits, and if you think you want to discuss any of these with me, maybe we can conduct another session, or just go on Google and find out how you can get more information, and try to build your personality or attitude towards these traits. Because definitely if you are going to come to a corporate sector, you will find these kind of measurable traits in your annual appraisal cycle. All right, moving on to the next slide. Skills required to kickstart or build your career. This is another very important slide which I wanted to share with you. So I'll not focus or spend too much time on everything, but the major ones which I think people in colleges sometimes lack. So first one is definitely build your domain knowledge. So if you are an electrical engineer, if you're an electronics engineer or a control engineer, you should know your subject, and you need to learn how to communicate that well. Okay. So yeah, whether it's like through communicating by writing this, or maybe by going and speaking to somebody, or just need to be confident, which comes under behavioral skills. So that's where I mean you have to you need to be good at that. But what I'm trying to say here now, I was trying to make sense out of this sentence. So don't sweat on becoming an expert in building or becoming an expert in a communication or in your domain. Let's say you are a control engineer. So don't think you have to know everything about, how whatever is written in M. Gopal or Ogata, or you have to read every chapter and every line and you have to understand. No. So just build or develop a basic understanding and then try to keep reading. And don't think like when you finish reading this book, then only you will be eligible to apply to a job, or then only you will be eligible to give an exam. No, because you cannot in your lifetime, you cannot master those everything written in that book unless until you do a PhD. So just try to get how every chapter can be used in an application. So something like that. That's what I wanted to convey here. And this will take you way forward in your career. And because I still remember, I did not focus on many chapters in those books, and I was, because I was interested in some of the subjects only, like control theory. Yeah. So control theory, I was really interested in that, and how Nyquist plot works and those kind of thing works. So I used to spend more time in that subject than other subjects, and that's where I think I built my domain knowledge in that. But you know what? After still working 5 years in the industry, I could not understand a lot of things goes into tuning a PID control. So I was not able to call myself as an expert. And still, like, I find people who spend like 10 years or 20 years in the industry, they may not be having like a mastery in that particular subject, but that doesn't stop you from applying to a job or talking to people about that subject. And that's where you learn how, by discussing or going and approaching people. All right, next thing is networking skills. In current era, or I would say in current market, this is one of the most important skill, and especially in overseas, and in Australia, because there are a lot of jobs in the market, but those jobs do not translate into recruitment or directly published into recruitment website. So you hear about those jobs either through LinkedIn, or talking to a friend, or you have built a credibility, or you interacted. Let's say you interacted with me, and I know somebody from you guys, you are interested in developing Python or this thing. So I might approach somebody. Okay, I have a very small project. Would you like to take that? So that's how networking works. But networking only works when your network is vast. So I think most of you guys are aware of that, and in modern era you try that, because LinkedIn and internet is like approachable or accessible to everyone. So, but yeah, be judicious in doing this. And next thing is sell yourself. Okay, this is another very important aspect where because when you are not very confident on some of the things, like when you are not very confident on your control system or automation knowledge, sometimes you hold back that thing, and you don't try to approach to a recruiter or another person and thought that, okay, what if he asks this question, what if she will ask this question. So I would not kind of, and the another perception people have, that I don't want to boast about myself, what I did, what I know. No, you have to write that particularly in your resume, that you know this thing and you know this thing better. So you can say that, okay, I know control technology, control theory like this, and I have achieved really great results in my project, and I have got 90% marks in this. So you have to write those things in your resume, and that's what a part of sell yourself, which is very important in building your career. Next is project management skills, which is important. I have already discussed project management skills or subdomains in earlier slide. Here I'm going to just talk in brief, like you need to know the tools which are used in project management. If you are very early in your career, just explore what is MS Project, how the documentation can be managed, how the quality management works, those kind of things. So just try to explore as much as possible on these three. I'll not talk about this because we have covered them. Technical skills and building domain knowledge are more or less same, but here technical skills not only related to building your knowledge in your domain. So you need to have technical skills in how to take information or from mechanical, how to take information from electrical, or from a civil guy, from a computer science guy. So you need to develop that engineering aptitude. So if you are talking to some other domain person, you don't feel lost. And how do you do that? Just by interacting with people, reading articles, stay connected with technology. Now certifications. So there are a lot of certifications these days offered by online courses website, and Microsoft or Google, Amazon. So just try to, based on what we have learned previously in third or fourth slide, what are the domain, subdomain you want to target. So search in Google what are the certifications available in those particular domains, and whether those certifications are useful for you or not. Read reviews of those certifications and approach people who have done those certifications, and then just invest in that. And if it's cost you, then you have to understand how much you can pay and what is the benefit out of it. So that plan your certification in that way. And definitely certifications help because that is kind of a authorization that at least you have this basic understanding in this subject. Otherwise, sometimes people are a little bit hesitant whether you know this thing or not. And go with credible certification rather than some random ones. Just give me a break, sorry. Again, standards. So how these domains which we have talked, or the industries which we have talked in slide 3 and slide 4, they do not just come up with an idea and just implement it. All the industries and domains follow a rigorous standards process, and that process come out of these international or national standards like IEEE, IEC, EN. So IEEE is basically electronic standard, which you may be definitely aware of that. IEC is International Electrotechnical Committee, which is responsible for mainly automation related standards like 61508, 6195. So these are basically electronics and safety related standards. So you can just go in Google and find out what are the standards related to electronic components, control system. Yeah, one of the major, I think you would have heard this IEC 6113, something like that, which is basically PLC programming standard, so which is very important. I'll ping you in the chat what is that standard number. Go and search in Google what that standard says. So yeah, EN standard is again European standard. API standards are American petroleum standards, which are basically used in power sector and the petrochemical sector. They are very important because they give you, design methodologies and thresholds and parameters to design your system in a safe manner. So that is also very much a very important standard, and people in America or industries in America and Saudi Arabia and Middle East use those standards. Then ISA standard. So ISA is International Society for Automation. So I have been following ISA since like early era of my career, and they have been like I have been reading a lot of articles from them. So yeah, just go and search for ISA and read. They do have a lot of articles which is related to automation. BSI standard is I think Bharat standard or something. I forgot the full form of that, but yeah, this is Indian standard. However, what BSI does is like they inherit most of their standard from IEC or API. Not API, because BSI in India, generally the power industry or petrochemical industry follow European standards. So they inherit IEC standard to develop Indian specific standard. And there are a lot of other country specific industry standards, different ones in Australia, Europe, and South America, Mexico, those kind of places. I would suggest maybe just if you are involved in selecting an elective for your coursework, I would suggest maybe teachers or Manish sir can take this as a feedback from my side, and give a background to students. What are the kind of how the standards are developed, and what is the purpose of standards. So when students come to industry, they will have some background, and at least they can say in an interview or in their resume that they have read theoretically, they know what's going inside the standard. So let's say for instrumentation class, you can find out what are the top 3 or top 5 IEC standards, and just read abstract of that and understand what goes inside. These standards are not basically theoretical papers or something, but they give you guidelines. And so when you will read, you will figure out what's inside them. Last is technical membership. So technical membership, you can, if you click this link, I'll click it and see what. So I'll click it in last. Before that, I will talk about the other ones. So technical membership is you associate yourself with some technical societies going around the world, and for instrumentation people, ISA is the major one. So I am an ISA member, and so you have to pay a nominal fees for becoming a member, and I am a member for ISA and Engineers Australia also. You can become a member of IEEE for electronics and instrumentation people. That is also important, but that is more of academic related rather than industry related. There are other technical societies as well. PMP, Project Management Society, that is also important, but again, it is more for experienced people. INCOSE is for a society for system engineering people. So you can just go on internet and find more about this. And here, the takeaway from this slide is like, you need to invest in your future. Some of the things, you have to pay fees to get access to that, but and that's where you need to understand how much you can pay and how much you can take out of that. And everything goes as an investment into your future. You may not be able to realize at that moment, but maybe 5 years down the line, it would definitely help you. So let's see. I think I will click this link and go through this in last. Before that, let's see what's on the next slide. Oh, again, this is a heavy slide. All right, I will again pick some of them, and not because we have already talked about most of them earlier. So career tips. These tips are based on overall my experience. I did not pick them up from Google, but if you go on Google, you will find many other career tips, and but this is based on my experience. So first one is how to plan your career. So every person has to plan their career in short term and long term. Sometimes it's difficult because you don't know what capabilities, what trainings you're going to get, but at least you need to have a line of sight, at least for short term, what you're going to do. Generally, I do not plan for long term. I only plan for short term, so that I see myself, I'm stable in my job, I will do well in my job, and I will learn these techniques. I will do really well. I have to spend, let's say, I have to give my 100% in the job, those kind of things, and pick 2-3 technical aspect of that, pick 2-3 personality related aspect or behavioral aspect of that, and try to master them. And once you finish, let's say, them in short term, then pick the more harder ones in next short term period, something like that. So figure out for yourself based on your aptitude and your domain selection, those kind of thing. So yeah, always plan your career, plan further studies, whether you want to do M.tech, MBA, certification, PhD, change of field. I will talk about this particular subject in Q&A, whether you need to do M.tech. For me, doing M.tech worked very well, because that's where I got an opportunity to study in a world-class institute and get to interact with highly recognizable professors and all those things. MBA, it depends. I don't think in current era doing an MBA, that's only my perception, because I would not go for MBA, and I would go rather for getting experience. But it again totally depend on your aspiration and your aptitude, whether you want to develop yourself some management skills before going into industry. Generally, what's preferable is you work in industry for a couple of years and then go for MBA and once you finish MBA, you can go for a managerial position. Certifications, again, we have already talked about this earlier. PhD, that's very tricky one, because sometimes, after doing MBA, people think, okay, should I do PhD? Some people, go on that path. I would say for engineers in India, PhD is really not worth to go or choose, because industries do not want, most of the industries do not want PhD candidates. It's just for research and development people. So that's And change of field, as somebody asked, like Gajendra asked earlier, I think whether you can change the field, I have answered already for that. But change of field can be from one subdomain to another subdomain. And as I told in my slide 4, and that subdomain change, you will feel you would feel yourself that whether it's right time for you to change the field. And I would always encourage you to change the field. Keep your domain, or you can say core knowledge, as it is, or build upon your core knowledge, but keep changing the field. I was always a control engineer, but I started working on gas turbine controls, then I worked in renewables, then I moved to project management a bit, project engineering a bit, then I moved to safety, and right now I'm in safety assurance. So however, I always keep my control system engineering knowledge as my core field. Make job database from various job sites for required skills, and again go back to the domain or subdomain slide and find out which is best suitable for you, and go for all the websites available in the world, like major ones. So in Australia it's seek.com, in India I think if it's already still working, naukri.com, and find out whether so just search with keywords control system engineer for you guys, or project engineer, so, and see what are the requirements generally they do have. Write it in a database and see whether you meet those requirements or not. And if you do not meet any of these requirements, then see what you can do to achieve that or develop that skill. So, and that's next point is how to improve skills. Improved skills by experience, by having a hunger to learn more, doing certification, learning by others. That's where you can, and reading manuals, watching videos, all those things. There is no one answer, but you have to do many things. How to behave in corporate world. So again, this can be a 1 hour talk, but I will just shorten it in a minute or so. So in corporate world, you have to be open and you have to be respectful, and don't hold yourself. Okay, even if you are not good in communication, or if you do not know how to behave, just always think like you have to be respectful to others. Okay, and don't try to go beyond certain boundaries, and I would say don't be disrespectful to people. Again, role of English speaking and writing, it's very important. I think everybody understands that. I'll not go much into detail of that. Build credibility within organization. How to build credibility? By doing right work, by asking questions, right questions, by doing delivering things with good quality or expected quality on right time. Okay, so quality and achieving things on right time, these are two major important parameters where corporates rate their employees. How to write resume. I'll share my resume in the last, so I'll not go because I'm not a resume writing expert. I can just share my resume and you can just go through that. I will share my resume with you, all of you guys, and you can just go through my LinkedIn profile also and see what I have put in my resume, and maybe you can just use some of the tips from there. And these days I have seen some people use video resume, which in my view works perfectly, but you need to have some kind of skills to develop that. I know one person who has developed an amazing video resume, and so that also worked very well. How to prepare for an interview in India and Australia. I think in consolidation, what we have talked, everything, they are part of preparing for an interview. So, however, there are a few specific things which go in preparation of interview. Don't focus too much of technical if you are not giving an interview in BARC, and even or BARC, DRDO, or those kind of institute, and even in those kind of institute, Don't try to read everything. Try to read what is the main core aspect of your branch, and try to master that. And however, in corporate world, they will focus more on your I would say PLC skills. So if you're applying for a company like GE or Siemens, they would want to know like how much you know about PLC, how much you know about mm, determining median of three signals or average, and how you do how a signal translate from a field device and read in a PLC, those kind of things. So those kind of basic aspect which you can find in any good PLC, or maybe Btec, and those kind of pick some major subjects or chapters from Btec, and read those. And don't go into too much depth, and just understand the basic concept. Okay, because in interview is limited for an hour, and don't think like he's going to go into too much depth. If they will go in depth and you know that, very great, but you cannot finish or you cannot cover every like chapter of Btec or any of your textbook in for an interview. So don't sweat too much for this, and focus on your behavior, on your I would say communicating in a right way, whatever you're saying, rather than just going into very much technical aspect of the subject. All right, role of networking, I think we have already talked about that. Job overseas, it's again a matter of exploring on internet. So job overseas, sitting in India, it's very difficult to find job overseas, but there are just go in Google, like what are the major website for jobs in Australia, in Canada, in the US, in the Europe, and just see how they do have good articles, like how you can find out jobs, what are the skills required to find jobs there. So something like that. So you can do that activity. Stay connected with the subject, reading latest magazines, books, articles. We have already talked about this. And finally, find a hobby that helps in building confidence. So about other than all these things which we have talked, you have to find an activity where you can go and relax. Like I do running, sometimes I play tennis or weekly basis, or maybe something like doing your DIY project, or painting, or playing chess or something like that, or going and for a walk or something, anything where you can excel. Okay, so a hobby can be keeping you stay fit, but something it can be cooking. So you can be a good cook and just post a video on internet. And why it's important? Because you have something else. If you feel down sometimes in your career, if you're not able to achieve something great in your career, and if you feel let down, you have something else where you are performing well, where you do not have competition. Okay, don't compete in your hobby field with somebody. Compete with yourself in that. So I'll give you an example of myself in running. So I started running in, let's say, 6 years back, and it was just like I was watching some people, why people run 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers. So then I thought, okay, let's try, because I wanted to stay fit. So from there onwards, I started running 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers. Now I run 21 kilometers, but I'm not competing against myself. But what happens, like I used to take, let's say, 3 hours running in 3 hours to run 21 kilometers, but now I take only 2 hours. So I feel confidence and in myself. Okay, I have improved myself in that, and I'm really doing great. So if I'm not doing great sometimes in my job, sometimes with my family, at least I have something to go back and relax myself and build my confidence and feel good about. So that's again very important thing. All right, so the takeaway from this slide is that there is no one magic wand which can get you a job, honestly speaking. So you have to try everything. Okay, Some of the things you can focus more, some of the things you can focus less, but you keep trying everything, and a small thing sometimes works. So, and that will give you your first big breakthrough. Stay hungry always, in a way, like when, even if you get a job, even if you're scoring well in your subject, because even if you're, let's say, first ranker in your class, don't think like you have achieved everything. Think like there are 1,000 students outside which may be doing better. So just keep a higher level target for yourself. And again, everyone will get a job. So if you have a thought that you are not going to get a job and it's very difficult in job market, take that thought out of your mind right now. Everyone, I haven't met in my 15 years of career who hasn't got job. Some people got it a little bit late, like 6 months, 1 year, 2 years after their engineering, and some people got immediately. But just prepare yourself for this. So, and you will get a job. Just ask, are you doing enough to get a job? If you think like you are not doing enough, so you will start doing better to get a job by using these tips, talking to people, reading more books, writing some exam, doing certifications, and that will accelerate your job exploration process and getting your first job. All right, so be confident that you are going to get job. It's just matter of how much effort you are putting and how fast you are going to get job. All right, enough of career tips on this slide. Questions and answers. So these are the set of questions and answers which I received from Honey, and I think most of them I have covered, but I will again go through them quickly. What are the job opportunities for instrumentation and control engineer? I think we have covered. If you have any specific question, please ask. So maybe we can, once we'll finish this. So yeah, I think better just ask me this question. Do you think anybody has specific questions, like what kind of job opportunities in instrumentation and control other than what I have explained? Do you have any further question on this? All right, so I take it as no, so no question on this. What are the job opportunities for instrumentation and control engineer? What to do after B.tech and instrumentation engineering? All right, so though we have covered this, but again, I would say sometimes, what happens, you don't get job just after finishing your master or bachelor's, because either you couldn't get into the company who came for campus interview, or maybe because of COVID there are problems going around in the job market. So what you can do, maybe what I chose is, like, I did masters, though there was a company came to our college at that time, and I got selected for that, some textile company. But before that, I got a rank in GATE and I went for masters. So that's always an option. And however, I would say, which covers the next question, be very careful in choosing your master course, and better to go for a better college and not for a branch. Okay, because again, it's like, stick to your core. Where if you are in instrumentation, stick to your instrumentation, or if you're in electronics, but go for a better college, so that in better college you get exposed to various things which you would not have seen in right now in your college. So or maybe opportunities. So I would say better choose a better college than branch. And you can always opt for jobs in startups. Approach like your seniors or any other alumni who have started maybe a small company, where you can just go and say that, okay, can I get an internship? Can I get a job for, let's say, 3 months, maybe with very less salary, those kind of things. So at least you will learn and you can spend time there. Build your own projects at home. Today's world is endless. So just open Google, order a Raspberry Pi or a BeagleBone or a Arduino, and just download a circuit, build a project, make a your garden water control system, or any of your lighting control system, home automation stuff, those kind of things. Just build a project at home or in lab, those kind of things. There are a lot of materials available on internet. Connect with people in industry, and don't sit around at home. Try to connect with people in industry over LinkedIn or your known person, alumni, those kind of things. Develop industry specific skills. So choose, as we I think we have talked about that earlier. Develop a skill for that industry where you want to go. This question we have covered. What extra courses should be done to make a good bond with the mainstream? I think we have covered this. What are the extra courses? And just search on Google. If you have any doubt about any courses, you can email me or any of your seniors or teachers. How to be a good project manager and improve your skills? I would say organize small events, meetings, better do good documentation, be clear thinker, assertive, time management, time-bound approach to complete tasks. Those are the basic skills for a project management or for a project manager. However, industries or corporate would not hire freshers as a project manager. So you need to develop those skills while you're working in an industry. What is the future of EIC in different fields? So you have already seen, like I have built, my whole career on EIC, and I won't hesitate in saying that as an instrumentation engineer, you are well placed in application of a technology. A mechanical engineer can go only in mechanical. He or she will also go in application of mechanical technology. But every process industry need an instrumentation engineer. Every big product needs an instrumentation and control engineer. So most of the time, what happens? They have to hire a mechanical engineer as instrumentation engineer or control engineer, or electrical engineer as instrumentation or control engineer. But if you have instrumentation and control engineer, what you have to develop a system engineering. You need to have a mechanical knowledge bit. You need to have electrical. Need to have electronics. Those kind of skills. So to me, electronic instrumentation and control engineers are well placed. What was your first job after graduation? We have already talked about that. How did you reach up to this level? We have already talked about this. And so second last question is it necessary for a student of core branch to complete her master to get a core job? Definitely not, really not. Masters is just a filler, okay? So no company is basically expecting masters. They hire masters So I'll give you a kind of perception what big companies like GE or Siemens do. So they go to big colleges and hire masters, and because most of the time, B.tech in IITs are not interested in doing engineering jobs. They wanted to go either in MBA or go to the US or maybe IT or those kind of things. But so what companies like GE, Siemens do, they go to IITs and hire a master's student. But that doesn't mean that they are looking for that kind of capability in core subject. They are basically hiring bachelor level of technical person, but they will hire from IITs, from masters people, because they don't want to go to any other colleges. And I would say avoid going for PhD unless you are passionate about that subject, because for engineers doing PhDs is you kind of limit yourself and it's very difficult to get a job. Last, Maybe I don't think we have enough time left because we have already talked about, I think, more than 2 hours. Yeah, 2.5 hours.